This week's episode of the Wildcard Podcast is brought to you by popcorn. Popcorn, a delicious treat you can enjoy anytime.
Jeff, eat the popcorn. It's delicious.
No, I'm fine.
Jared's eating it.
I don't care.
Look at him go. That's a good boy, Jared.
It's really good.
What's on it?
It's salt. It's just salt. Jared, you must show him.
Nah, I'm good.
Come on, Jeff. I love to share my popcorn. You're kind of hurting my feelings.
Why are there pufferfish carcasses everywhere?
I enjoy fishing in koi ponds. Jared, tell him he has nothing to fear. You must tell him he has nothing to fear.
I don't think that's true.
Why is it glowing?
It's the Datura. It'll be fun.
If I didn't know better, I'd think you were trying to make me a zombie.
No.
Really?
Yes. Yes. By the time I am finished, you will all be under my power. With this powder, I will raise my zombie army and take over the world. Jared, heed my words. You must slap Jeff into submission so that you will both be my zombie slaves. I command you.
Nah, I don't want to do that.
But you're my zombie slave.
I don't think I am.
But the box said, oh, God damn it. Only works on those recently deceased who were killed by a battle axe, then returned from the dead, and was killed a second time by being slapped to death.
That is incredibly specific.
What's that noise? My windows!
Did you make Drake into a zombie?
It was all part of my plan. I command you, Drake. You must come to me. You see? You fools! You will all be under my control.
Not all of us.
Drake, what should I have him do to show you my power?
Oh, I have an idea. You can have him do that for you.
Okay. Drake!
Would you rather have a forklift or a power?
That's fine, but, can you make him run?
Of course I can. I am his master. Run, Drake. You must run. You see?
Of course, you know, Ron, zombies don't run.
Son of a bitch. Drake! Drake, stop running! Get back here! Get back here!
You know what this popcorn needs? It needs more tetrodotoxin. You want some?
I'm still good.
Damn it!
Welcome to the Wildcard Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Eaton, and my co-pilots on this journey to wherever are my good friends Jeff Curtis
Hello.
and Ron Blair, a mindless, bulky hunk of meat, shambling endlessly, eternally hungry, never satisfied, smelling of the grave, and currently chewing on my arm. We're laughing because the cat decided she really wanted to be on the podcast. So
I'm Ron Blair's nickname from now on.
I mean, it's fine. I didn't put time into that anyway.
It's okay. That was great. I am a shambling, mindless.
It's Ron's a zombie.
Fleshing.
That's
I'm
what
a
I was
zombie.
saying,
That's
'cause
the thing.
Last week's episode was about zombies. So there you go.
I made the zombie noises.
You did.
For the commercial. I felt really good about it.
Yeah, that was quite a commercial, by the way.
That was
quite
excellent.
epic.
It's an epic.
Completely self-congratulatory.
Oh, yeah.
We're very proud of our
We
commercial.
did a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I'm proud of all the commercials, but this
Speaking
one...
of self-congratulations.
Just think, if you actually wanted to sell a product, you could have us do a commercial.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We would be happy to do a commercial. We've done 66 so far.
Yeah.
Now, 65.
So...
Yeah, your epic 3 minutes and 8-second commercial.
We got it.
We love that.
Yeah.
We'll nail it.
Yeah, that's how long they usually are on TV. 3 minutes.
Yeah, those are the
It's
best.
almost an infomercial.
Right.
Speaking of infomercials,
Yeah.
tell people what this podcast is all about. Give them the info.
This podcast is about celebrating a sunny day. It's about sweeping the clouds away.
I know where this is going.
It's about taking you to a place where the air is sweet.
Could
The
you
wild cards will tell you how to get
Sesame
to
Street.
Sesame Street. That's what we're
here
all
for.
about.
That's what we're here for. In case you weren't sure, We have explicit details.
We have insider information.
Right.
First, you
on
go
how
to
get
St.
Sesame
John,
Street.
then you
Right.
turn left on the bypass.
Right.
And then,
And then you take the pike.
Then you
You
take
take the pike for about
Third-
2.5 miles
third
to the
star
stump.
on the left.
Right. And then you're there.
Yeah.
You can't miss it. It's Sesame Street. There's a big sign.
Now, speaking of
Sesame Street, they have
speaking of
chicken.
Elizabethtown,
Yeah.
Yes.
our favorites question today is about Elizabethtown.
Holy cow.
It's a two-parter.
Yes.
Here's the first part.
Give it to me.
What are some of your favorite Elizabethtown restaurants?
Oh.
Now, you could do chains. Like, I'll be honest, I love Cheddar's.
Yeah, I
We
like
could also
Cheddar's
do, like,
enough.
the other ones that are less
I love
known.
Back Home. Back
Okay.
Home is so tasty.
We've
to
eaten there
me.
before.
Yeah.
We go to Panera's a lot.
I like Panera's okay.
I prefer McAllister's to Panera.
I like McAllister's. I like Reuben's Deli, but McAllister's
That's what I want to
is
talk about
good, too.
Reuben's, because I went to Reuben's for the first time last Saturday.
Oh, how was
I've
it?
never
What
been.
did
Now,
you think?
I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I didn't. I had a chicken parm sub.
Okay.
The bread was great. The sauce was good. The chicken wasn't the best.
Yeah.
The fries were really good.
Yeah.
Really
Oh,
good
I
French
love their fries.
But I just loved the place.
Yeah, it's
The people
charming.
were great.
No, they're the
And they had
best.
so
They're
many
absolutely
options.
the
So I'm
best.
definitely. And plus, I live 2 minutes away from.
Did you have a pickle out of the pickle barrel?
don't do pickles.
Oh God, they're so good. They're,
And they
the
have
nice
so
deli
many
pickles.
beers. Like, I don't drink, but
Right.
I'm like, I almost wanted to drink just to try some of the beer because they had so many different.
Yeah,
like,
I bet they have craft beers,
They do.
yeah,
But
yeah.
not just like one or two. They had dozen or more.
No,
craft beers.
I'm not surprised. Reuben's is always
Really
always
cool place.
solid.
Drake
I love
had
them.
a hot roast beef and cheese sandwich he really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I think my buddy Drake just had. Clay had like what was it, a club sandwich or something. He had.
Yeah.
But
I've always
really
said
unique.
that the best Reuben sandwich I've ever had came from Reuben's, and the best Reuben sandwich I'll ever have is the next one that I'll have at Reuben's.
Reuben's, yeah.
Because every time it just gets better and better, and that's probably my favorite sandwich is the Reuben's Reuben.
what was really unique was
yeah,
when we were
it's
there, like
excellent.
we were looking at the menu, they could tell we hadn't been there before because we were
Yeah.
like, looking around. They give us this little. They have like a menu on the wall, and they're like, "That one's not complete. Here's the more complete one we've got."
Right.
And then there were other people who were just there who don't know us who were like, "Oh, you're gonna love this place. You'll be back."
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
They had a fan base.
Yeah, no, once you've eaten there, you're like, oh my God, it's
Yeah.
good food. The fries. I put a
were
little
really good.
salt and vinegar on it, ketchup. Oh God, they're amazing.
Yeah.
They're like flash fried, like Penn Station fries a little bit, but they're a little crunchier.
Okay.
They're a little more dumb.
Have
than
you guys been to the Fish House?
No.
The new one just
Excuse
opened
me.
up on Dixie, like across
Yeah.
from like just a little north of the Plum Alley and the. It's kind of it's just down the road from you, really, because it's by the Walgreens there.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't pay attention to. I don't like fish, so
Oh, I
it's
do.
not
That'll
something I
make
would.
a difference.
keep
I
track
like
of.
fish
I
too,
haven't
but
been there yet, but I wanna
I'm
totally
always
try it.
concerned about going to a new fish place because it's pricey. And if I get something I'm not necessarily, fond of, then I view it as wasting my money. So fish is sketchy with me.
One of my favorite restaurants in Louisville is called The Fish House.
Yeah.
Not in any way related to this one, because it was like a dad and his son who opened that one, but I went there once a week.
Yeah.
So if this is a good fish place, they'll have my business. I just haven't tried it yet.
I'm going to be in Louisville in a few weeks. I want to go to Bluegrass Burger.
Good
Yeah,
place.
that's-
Everybody has talked about that. Jeff's
Although
favorite burger is there.
they've changed their menu a lot since I first started going there, but the burgers are still great. It's
Yeah.
I
just
haven't had one since 2011.
How are the
by way.
fries there?
the fries are amazing.
They're
Yeah,
good.
because fries will make or break a place for me. I didn't eat at Mark's Feed Store for years because I didn't like the fries.
See, I like their fries.
I don't like them, but I
They have
found
so
the
much
potato
seasoned salt.
salad and I was sold.
They have so much good seasoned salt at the table.
Yeah, their seasoning salt is good.
Any other places that are local
Yeah.
that you guys like that are like exclusive to here?
That's why I mentioned Back Home. I love Back
Yeah.
Home as a place, and
I've heard good
Reuben's
things
is
about
only
Top,
here.
the pizza place. I've never eaten
Topped
there.
is good. Wicked Eyed Woman. I love their food there. I
It's
love
been hit
Wicked
or
Eyed
miss for me.
Woman.
It's-
Hit or miss for me.
And depending on when you go, it's also the service can take a long time.
Oh yeah,
I've enjoyed every
It's a
meal
cool
I've
place.
had
It's a
there.
cool place.
yeah. I like their brisket. Their brisket is amazing, and their fish and chips is really good too.
Yeah.
Here's the second half of the favorites question: is what restaurants would you like to see here?
Pizzeria Uno.
Oh, I would love a Pizzeria Uno
We
here.
already have a new pizza place coming called Boom Buzz. You won't need more pizza after Boom
That's
Buzz.
Oh,
thin
yeah,
crust,
but
though.
Pizzeria
It's
Uno-
not a thin
No,
crust.
they
I thought it was a thin crust
No.
place.
Pizzeria
no,
Uno
no,
is
no.
Chicago style pizza.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's terrible.
totally. Oh, I love
yeah.
Impellizzeri's though. I'm a big Impellizzeri's
See, I think
fan.
Impellizzeri's is some of the worst pizza.
I love it.
Their cheese is so bad.
If we could have any place, I want a Red Robin here.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I
too.
would stop there and get the cheapest burger and just fill up on steak fries.
I
all
would
day
rather
long.
have Chili's.
I've never eaten at Chili's.
I've eaten at Chili's. I wasn't that impressed.
No?
I like it quite a bit. Well, they have I'll only get one thing there, and it's their honey chipotle chicken.
Yeah.
I like spicy chicken, and it comes corn on the cob, and their fries
Right.
are a little thicker, a little pepper on them. I like it a lot, and they have great desserts.
I would like a Five Guys here as well.
Yeah.
I like Five Guys. I feel that after the last time I ate Five Guys, when I realized I was only starving hungry the first 2 times. The third time I went, this is okay.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't great. It was all right. It wasn't Red Robin.
I'd rather have bluegrass burgers.
Well, I love Red Robin, and I can't wait to try bluegrass burgers.
Yeah. Any other types of food we don't have? Anything that you think that we're lacking here in Elizabethtown in terms of the food spectrum?
Ethnically, we're pretty well represented.
Yeah.
And
Have you been to Namaste?
I went once, but the curry messes my stomach up.
I'm not an Indian food person, but I like the place a lot.
I like the naan. The naan and the dipping sauce that comes with the naan.
I think we could have a second Indian place, though, because
we certainly could.
Different Indian restaurants have different food.
I want a Greek place where I can sit down.
Greek would be nice.
That they have the actual meals, like the chop. You can go to Sam's in the mall, which I love. I love Sam's, but it's a Euro place. You go there, you get a pita, and you leave. You usually don't eat there. But I want a good Greek place that's like tableside service.
Italian either.
We've never had a good Italian place. We got Olive Garden.
That's chain Italian as opposed to...
Yeah, but I like it.
It's not bad.
No,
I shunned it for 30 years.
I like
Olive
Olive
Garden.
Garden.
And I was like, this is great.
It's
the
good.
gnocchi
We
soup.
usually go there during... I usually get the gnocchi soup.
Oh, I love the gnocchi soup.
Their mozzarella wedges are actually really good.
I love Olive Garden. They're fine.
Yeah,
Olive Garden is good.
But the one thing I've said ever since I moved here is pizzeria. There's not one in the entire state.
No, it's like
so I have to go to
Ohio
Cincinnati to get to eat.
Oh, you know what we need here? Gold Star chili. I like that. We go to
no, it's Skyline's gone.
There's Skyline in Louisville. There's one Gold Star in Lexington. But every time we go to Ohio to visit Michelle's family, we get Gold Star chili. And I used to like Skyline better, but I think I like Gold Star better. And we need one.
We have Buffalo Wild Wings and Buffalo Wings and Rings, which I actually like a lot better.
I like Wings and Rings a lot better.
They're both really good.
Yeah.
But there's a place that just opened in Shepherdsville that is my favorite version. It's called Cluckers.
Yeah.
And we'll take a road trip up there sometime because, my goodness.
I want a mom and pop barbecue restaurant here.
I'm with you
Mark's
on that.
is fine.
Yeah, but you're right.
But they're
Which is kind of surprising that we don't.
I'm shocked.
Place for it.
There are independently owned barbecue places surrounding Eaton, but there's none in Eaton. Like you got to go to Horse Cave or Cave City.
Yeah.
For
Louisville
Bucky
has
B's
several.
barbecue was very good. Yeah, Louisville has a ton. They have City Barbecue, which I think is very good.
But they also have several like mom and pop places.
Do they?
They have a lot of smaller places like that as well.
Yeah, I feel like those are the best.
I'm hungry.
I am too. There's one place in Cave City I thought about going because it's people who have opened up outside of an old gas station. And they just have the smoker outside. And anytime you see this place that looks like you shouldn't go there, that's where you go for barbecue.
That's the place to go.
Yeah.
There's a place in Louisville called the Frankfurt Avenue Beer Depot, which I really enjoy.
Yeah? What do they specialize in? Is like
They do brisket as well.
Brisket?
But it's a big.
God.
They actually was a chain that has a second one for a while, but the second one shut down. It's a really popular hangout.
That's lovely.
Speaking of hanging out, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Yeah.
Listening to the podcast. It is a Jaredisode.
We never got any feedback on what to call it, right?
No. Never.
I think Jaredisode is what you guys
Jaredisode?
Yeah.
I like Jaredisode.
I like Jaredisode.
So you
That's
know
my
I love my
favorite.
questions.
It rolls.
And there have been a lot of people who have not been super satisfied with the way our country has been run for a while.
really?
I can't imagine.
And there's a threat that is occasionally levied.
Yeah.
And that is that they're going to like move to Canada or move to like somewhere in Europe.
Right.
What would it take for you guys to leave the United States?
Money. If I had the money, I would leave
all there is to
right
it?
fucking now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would move to the Netherlands or France where they have reasonable vacation laws and vacation days and the worker is respected.
Here's the thing about Europe, though. That as difficult as and as demagoguery, as much of that stuff and right-wing craziness that's going on here in Europe, where there's a history that led to world wars over this, it's on the rise again. And
yeah, I heard about that.
There are times when I thought it'd be great to live in Europe, and I still think I love Europe. I'm not sure I'd want to move there because I'd be kind of concerned about these countries that are starting to move away from democracy, even more so than some people in our government are trying to do it, who are trying to that are changing constitutions and changing their Supreme Courts, like Poland and Hungary, and that are becoming virulently anti-immigrant because of the Syrian
what I don't
refugees.
get is that they're looking at fascism again. It didn't do well before, or it did really well before.
But but
it was wrong.
All of these political thoughts were on the outs until the Great Recession, and then when we did the Great Recession, Europe made the mistake of embracing austerity. They embraced austerity, and so they didn't pump money into their economies because of the fear of inflation, which is what they think of as causing World War II.
Right, so they starved it.
So they
starved it to
death. But they left so many people in pain without jobs and economies falling apart, where the United States, Obama pumped money into the economy, and as bad as it was here, we were so much better off than in Europe, which is why all these fringe parties started suddenly being attractive to people, because the center governments that were in all these countries weren't solving the problems that they were facing economically.
Yeah.
And then with the war in Syria pushing refugees flying to Europe for safety, it was easy for the refugees to be demagogued by people who are using them as an excuse for the pain that normal people are feeling over there. So that would be my concern about moving to Europe, even though I love Europe.
I did an episode on Canada. I wouldn't mind checking it out.
Canada.
I've been in. I love Canada.
It's just cold all the time.
I love the cold.
I like the cold, but I want to escape it. My dream would be to move to a Caribbean island, like some third world country, and open a theater there, and then teach them
wireless. What if you didn't have wireless?
No, I have to go to a place that has internet.
Any island, I would be concerned about global warming making my island disappear.
Well, that's okay.
And
I'm talking about a big island. I'm talking about a bigger island.
Calling a continent.
Yeah, essentially.
All right, so I want to take you guys back.
I want to own a theater down there.
Now that I've retained the
you said it'll never get better than this, Ron.
So that's what I'm thinking about. Think about people who have left their country to go to a new country,
like expats,
sure.
expatriates.
Yeah, or even like 400 years ago.
Yeah.
When people were moving from Europe to the United States.
As our ancestors.
Like
so what do you
immigrants.
think life was like for early settlers, people who left their country to go to an unknown place? We now kind of know everywhere. All the places we're talking about, we know them. We like what they have, versus moving to a place that has potential and nothing settled.
Well, and no place to go for if you're help. If you need help. If you think about like the Pilgrims, more than 50% of them died that first winter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, they got here, they weren't prepared for the weather, they didn't know what they're getting into. There was no food, they didn't know how to find food. They needed the Native Americans to teach them how to plant crops and what crops to plant. And so, I think for the early settlers to this country, it took a lot of fortitude to come here, and a lot of them weren't prepared for what they were getting into.
How could you be?
Yeah. Every time I think of colonialization, I think of the Witch, the movie The Witch, where it's a super religious guy, and the people in the town, and it takes place like in the late 1600s. The town, they're not being as religious as this guy wants, so he's criticizing them, and so they're like, well, fuck you then. You can live outside of our walls in the woods. And so they do. And of course there's a witch in the woods, and everything dies. And it's horrific. It's the being horrified of exclusion and all that, and the horrors that it brings. So that's what I think when I think of colonialization. That and Roanoke, everybody dying and nobody knowing about it.
Systematic European colonization of what would come to be known as the Americas began in 1492. When a Spanish expedition headed by the Italian explorer Christopher Columbus sailed west to find a new trade route to the Far East, but inadvertently landed in what came to be known to Europeans as the New World.
And still called it India, did he not? Was he like, we're in India?
The East Indies.
That's why Native Americans are called Indians, because he thought he was in India for a long time.
Running aground on the northern part of Hispaniola, that was the country's time, it's the Greater Antilles now, on December 5th, 1492, which the Taino people had inhabited since the 7th century.
Wow.
The site became the first European settlement in the Americas. European conquest, large-scale exploration, and colonization soon followed. Columbus's first two voyages, in 1492 and 1493, reached the Bahamas and various Caribbean islands, including Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, and Cuba. In 1497, John Cabot, on behalf of England, landed on the North American coast, and a year later, Columbus's third voyage reached the South American coast. As the sponsor of Christopher Columbus's voyages, Spain was the first European power to settle and colonize the largest areas, from North America and the Caribbean to the southern tip of South America.
Yeah, they had the first fort in America in Florida, St. Augustine.
The Spanish began building up their American empire in the Caribbean, using islands such as Cuba, Puerto Rico, and Hispaniola as bases. The North and South American mainland fell to the conquistadors, with an estimated 8 million deaths of indigenous populations, making this the first large-scale act of genocide in the modern era.
Yeah, is that the Mayans that they were killing?
Mayans, Aztecs,
Yeah,
Incas.
they
How
were just
many of
going
those 8 million are direct killing, and how much of it's disease?
I think it would be.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
wondering, because
Yeah.
bringing the European
Smallpox.
diseases
Well,
to that, yeah.
Well,
Which we've talked
because
about before.
Columbus left behind some of his sailors because one of his boats sank. So by the time he came back, most of the Indians on that island had already died from disease.
Yeah.
Florida fell to Juan Ponce de Leon after 1513.
Yeah.
From 1519 to 1521, Hernan Cortez waged a brutal campaign against the Aztec Empire.
Yeah,
led-
Cortez was the
Moctezuma
conquistador,
II.
right? He was the
He's one,
nasty.
yeah. The Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan, became Mexico City,
Yeah.
the chief city of what the Spanish were now calling New Spain. Later, the areas that are now California, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Texas, Missouri, Louisiana, and Alabama were taken over by other conquistadors such as Hernando de Soto, Francisco Vasquez de Coronado, and Alvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca.
Imperialists.
Yeah.
All of them imperialists.
Absolutely. Further to the south, Francisco Pizarro conquered the Inca Empire during the 1530s. Other powers, such as France, also founded colonies in the Americas. In eastern North America, a number of Caribbean islands and small coastal parts of South America. Portugal colonized Brazil
Right.
and tried colonizing the eastern coast of present-day Canada and settled for extended periods northwest. The age of exploration was the beginning of territorial expansion for several European countries. Europe had been preoccupied with internal wars and was slowly recovering from the loss of population caused by, another topic of our podcast,
What's that?
Plague.
the Black
Oh,
Death.
the plague, yeah.
Thus, the rapid rate at which it grew in wealth and power was unforeseeable in the early 15th century. So, following that bubonic plague, here's
Right.
this new territory to expand, allowing for
Right.
vast.
Let's kill everybody on it. We'll settle.
Uh-huh.
That's
Eventually,
There's nobody there.
what it was. There's nobody there. We'll just
they're
kill.
not
We'll
us.
kill whatever's
They're not
there.
us.
It's not
They're
worth it.
savages.
Right. They're horrible. They're uncivilized.
Most of the Western Hemisphere came under the control of European governments, leading to changes to its landscape, population, and plant and animal life. In the 19th century, over 50 million people left Europe for the Americas. The post-1492 area is known as the period of the Columbian Exchange, a dramatically widespread exchange of animals, plants, culture, human populations, including slaves, ideas, and communicable disease between the American and Afro-Eurasian hemispheres following Columbus's voyage to the Americas.
Which makes sense. You don't go to Africa without getting the shots, your immunizations.
Oh, yeah.
You don't go to another country like that without your immunizations. We'll still get malaria.
Oh, absolutely.
And die, like, quickly.
The first successful British colonization of the Americas, including colonization by both the English and the Scots, was in 1607 in Jamestown, Virginia, and reached its peak when colonies had been established throughout the Americas. The English, and later the British, were among the most important colonizers of the Americas, and their American empire came to rival the Spanish-American colonies in military and economic might. Three types of colonies were established in the English overseas possessions in America in the 17th century and continued into the British Empire at the height of its power in the 17th century. These were charter colonies, proprietary colonies, and royal colonies. A group of 13 British American colonies collectively broke from the British Empire in the 1770s. I know.
I didn't know about that.
Through a successful revolution establishing the modern United States.
Did Aaron Burr have something to do with that?
He did, and he established the second United States that
Yeah,
broke
so
off
I'll
from
be
the first
goddamned.
one.
Also
Oh.
called Other United States.
Other United States.
The Western United States.
All right,
It was
guys.
called United States, but it had an asterisk next to it. That's what it was.
Here's question number
Our
3.
portion of the United States.
Right.
Did you notice I said that the Jamestown, Virginia was the first successful colonization of the United
Yes,
States?
I
Yes.
did notice that.
Are you
I did
familiar
not, but-
with the first attempted British colonization
Roanoke?
of America?
Was
it
The
Roanoke? I love
colony!
Roanoke.
Are we talking about the
about-
disappearing settlers?
We're
of
talking
Roanoke?
about the Roanoke colony.
Excellent.
Okay.
I was going to do a report on this once, but then I didn't follow through on it.
I'm so no
glad
joke.
we're doing this.
No joke. The fifth screenplay I ever started writing, which was sometime in the mid 2000s, it was about the disappearance of Roanoke. What it was about? There was a psychic, a fake psychic, who was doing a show.
James Roday?
It was him. Yeah, it was much like a James Roday character
Yeah.
who knew he was a fraud, but he was showy, and so he was on TV. He was a personality.
Yeah.
And they went to Roanoke, and he starts feeling really kind of funny, and he starts seeing visions of the settlers. So I did a ton of research.
Yeah.
And I got about 60 pages through. It was the best screenplay I'd ever written. It was great writing. It was in the language was loyal to what the language was back then. The same people were the same people that were part of the Roanoke thing. I did that. And then I heard that M. Night's The Village was coming out, and I gave up. Yeah. I went, if he's already done it, well, I give up. And then The Village was nothing like what I had written at all.
It's not about Roanoke at all.
Yeah.
No, nothing about it. But I was even
back.
dumber. I was even dumber then. I had given up. I just gave up for like a year. And then after a year, you go, well, there's, I don't need to go back to that. It would have taken a much larger budget than what I thought I would have ever had access to.
How many characters kept saying Croatoan? Croatoan.
I didn't really have any of them really saying Croatoan.
So the Roanoke Colony, as an enterprise, was originally financed and organized by Sir Humphrey Gilbert.
Bless his heart.
Humphrey Gilbert, who drowned in 1583.
As one does.
Returning from a voyage to the fishing settlement at St. John's, Newfoundland.
Lovely.
Sir Humphrey
Sir Humphrey.
Sir Humphrey
Forrest
Gilbert's
Gumfrey.
half-brother, Sir Walter Raleigh.
I love Raleigh. He was a pirate.
Gained his brother's charter from the Queen and subsequently executed the details of the charter through his delegates, Ralph Lane and Richard Grenville, Raleigh's distant cousin.
Was Raleigh a pirate? He was a privateer, wasn't he? Or am I thinking of somebody else?
A lot of his people were. I don't know that he did. He could have been. On March 25th, 1584, Queen Elizabeth I granted Raleigh a charter for the colonization of the area of North America. This charter specified that Raleigh needed to establish a colony in North America or lose his right to colonization.
Yeah, I remember that.
I was there.
I remember that.
Right. The intention of this venture was that Raleigh should provide riches from the New World. The Queen's Charter said that Raleigh was supposed to, quote, discover, search, find out, and view such remote heathen and barbarous lands, countries, and territories to have, hold, occupy, and enjoy.
And go have fun, Walt.
Yeah, just do it. You guys have fun storming the palace.
Right.
The Queen's Charter also said that Raleigh was supposed to establish a base from which to send privateers on raids against the treasure fleets of Spain.
Of course.
So that's the way it's piracy.
Spain got so picked on during the age of piracy because everybody was like, get Spain. We'll give you money. What were they called? The mark? You'd get the mark, and every one of them were like the Dutch, the French, the English. They were like, kick the shit out of Spain.
Well, Spain, they had all the silver and gold.
They had all the gold. They had the gold.
If you're going to attack someone's ships, it's going to be Spanish ships.
What were they called? The big galleons that carried they were warships. They were like man-o'-wars that carried carried all the gold and all that stuff. Yeah, they were hugely marked.
The purpose of these raids was to tell Spain that England was ready for war.
Yeah.
The original charter basically told Raleigh to establish a forward military base to counteract the activity of the Spaniards. Raleigh himself never visited North America, although he led expeditions in 1595 and 1617 to South America's Orinoco River Basin in search of the legendary golden city of
El Dorado. I love El Dorado.
On April 27th.
I wouldn't go to South America,
I love
El Dorado. You do live on El Dorado, don't you? El Dorado Drive.
That's why they pave your streets in gold.
That's
It's paved in terrible blacktop.
In horrible blacktop. It's gravel now.
It's like driving on a dirt road.
And we're not in the country right now. We're smack in the middle of Elizabethtown, and there's gravel roads everywhere for months now.
On April 27th, 1584, Raleigh dispatched an expedition led by Philip Amatus and Arthur Barlow to explore the eastern coast of North America.
Amatus and Barlow.
I love those.
They're my lawyers.
They're good.
They spare no expense. They arrived on Roanoke Island on July 4th. And soon established relations with the local natives, the Secotans and Croatans.
Yes.
I always want to say Croatoans, but it's Croatans.
It's Croatans.
Barlow returned to England with two Croatans named Monteo and Wanchese, who were able to describe the politics and geography of the area to Raleigh. Based on the information given, Raleigh organized a second expedition to be led by Sir Richard Grenville. Grenville's fleet departed Plymouth on April 9th, 1585, with 5 main ships. And please check out these names of these ships.
Okay.
Tiger, Roebuck,
Tiger, Roebuck,
Red Lion, Elizabeth, and Dorothy.
I remember
Elizabeth and Dorothy.
when I was doing my research.
Tiger and Dorothy.
Tiger and Dorothy.
When I was researching the script I was writing, I looked at the names and I went, "Oh fuck, I can't use any
It
of this."
sounds
I
made
think
up
I went
already.
with Elizabeth.
It
That was
sounds
the only
made up
one.
already, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, no, I'm
Dorothy.
naming it Tiger.
Tiger.
Yeah. What a horrible. Who does that?
A severe storm off the coast of Portugal separated Tiger from the rest of the fleet.
Tiger.
Poor Tiger.
The captains had a contingency plan if they were separated, which was to meet up again in Puerto Rico, and Tiger arrived in the Bay of Mosquito, Guanilla Bay, on May 11th. While waiting for the other ships, Grenville established relations with the resident Spanish while simultaneously engaging in some privateering.
Oh, yeah, you know.
He also built a fort.
What you do?
Elizabeth arrived soon after the fort's construction.
Bless her
Such
heart.
a stupid sentence. Grenville eventually tired of waiting for the remaining ships and departed on June 7th. The fort was abandoned and its location remains unknown.
Oh.
Foreshadowing?
Yes.
Probably not.
Nope, not at all.
Tiger sailed through the Ocracoke Inlet on June 22nd,
I hate okra,
but it struck a shoal, ruining most of its food supplies.
as it would.
The expedition succeeded in repairing the ship and in early July reunited with Roebuck and Dorothy.
I guess they really weren't used to reefs at this
Guess
time, were
not, yeah.
they?
Which
Shallows
arrived in
and
the
reefs.
Outer Banks with Red Lion some weeks previous. Red Lion had dropped off its passengers and left for Newfoundland.
Right. It sounds like a supermarket.
That's, you know what, that
Feel
part
like
isn't
a
even
children's
super
story. Red Lion. It dropped off its
It's
passenger.
not that important, but it's just fun to say those sentences.
Right.
During the initial exploration of the mainland coast and the native settlements, the Europeans blamed the natives of the village of Aquascoguk for stealing a silver cup.
Oh, this is where it goes down.
As retaliation,
Yeah.
the settlers sacked and burned the village, this native village.
Yeah.
Take our cup, we...
It was a
destroy your
misunderstanding.
entire
It was a
village.
misunderstanding. They blamed the wrong tribe for, and I believe
Idiots.
there was acrimony between the two tribes
Oh.
anyway.
It's a cup!
So no, they took that shit seriously, boy.
This account was written about by several individuals, and these reports were sent back to England. So England knew that we're off to a bad start.
Right. There's some problem with the natives right now.
Despite this incident and the lack of food, Grenville decided
In the
to
oncoming
leave
winter.
Ralph Lane and 107 men to establish a colony at the north end of Roanoke Island, promising to return in April 1586 with more men and fresh supplies. The group disembarked on August 17th, 1585, and built a small fort on the island.
Right.
There are no surviving renderings of the Roanoke fort, but it was likely similar to the one in Guanilla Bay. Grenville, in the Tiger, on only his seventh day of sail, captured, after a 3-day battle, a rich Spanish galleon, Santa Maria de San Vicente, off Bermuda, which he took with him as a prize back to England.
Well, there's the name of a ship.
Finally,
we get a...
that is
Santa
the name
Maria
of a
de
good
San
ship.
Vicente.
Yeah, that's the one I want to ride.
I like the Spanish names in this.
That or the Queen Anne's Revenge. I want to ride that.
As April 1586 passed, there was no sign of Grenville's relief fleet. Meanwhile, in June, bad blood resulted from the destruction of that village, and
You think?
spurred
Yeah,
an attack on the
maybe.
fort by the local Native Americans, which the colonists were able to repel. Soon after the attack, Sir Francis Drake was on his way home from a successful raid in the Caribbean, and he stopped at the colony and offered to take the colonists back to England. Several accepted, including metallurgist Joachim Gans.
Oh,
Joaquin
I love
Gans.
Gans. Joaquin
Gans,
Gans.
yep.
He made my brakes.
Oh.
He made my brake pads.
metallurgist
I had them.
did,
I
yeah.
had them.
Is that why you
Metallurgy.
crashed into the tree?
That is exactly why I crashed into the tree.
'Cause he was so
No,
haunted-
it
he was
wasn't
so
his
haunted
fault.
by-
I was drunk.
Okay.
That was it.
He's referencing a commercial from podcast.
Oh. Did
The
somebody
Hill
run
House
into a
one?
tree?
The Hill
Oh,
House
the
one?
Hill House one.
Commercial
Yes.
where you're- yeah,
yes.
yeah.
In case the listeners are concerned, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm all right. I
And
live.
so is Drake. Drake
Drake's
is somehow
fine.
still okay.
He's still.
He's still kicking.
He's fine.
Yeah.
He's not alive, but he's still fine.
Yeah.
He's okay.
So on Drake's return
Yeah.
voyage, the Roanoke colonists introduced tobacco, maize, and potatoes to England.
Maize. You call it corn.
The relief fleet arrived
Do I?
shortly
That's a
after
commercial.
Drake's
Do you remember
departure
that? Yeah,
with the
that's
colonists. However, when the relief fleet arrived, they found the colony abandoned.
What was drawn on the tree?
Nothing.
Well,
we're not there yet.
Oh, we're not there.
This is
yet.
before that.
God damn it.
Okay.
What happened?
I was going to say, wasn't his return slowed down because of the war with
Again,
Spain?
we're not there yet.
We're not there yet? This happened before
This
that?
is before the
This is the
disappearance of the colony.
prologue. This is the prologue
Wow.
of what
Yeah.
went down in Roanoke.
This is so Grenville returned to England with the bulk of his force, leaving a small detachment of 15 men to maintain an English presence and to protect Raleigh's claim to Roanoke. So, colony burn down this native settlement,
Right.
head back to England. We'll be back in a little bit. 2 years later, we come back. Crap.
Right.
The colony's gone.
Right.
Let's try again. I'll leave 15 men. Hold on to this. That was all in 1585. In 1587, Raleigh dispatched a new group of 115 colonists to establish a colony on Chesapeake Bay. They were led by John White, an artist and friend of Raleigh who had accompanied the previous expedition to Roanoke and was appointed governor of the 1587 colony.
He was probably a good guy. Probably a nice guy.
White and Raleigh named 12 assistants to aid in the settlement. They were ordered to stop at Roanoke to pick up a small contingent left there by Grenville the previous year, but when they arrived on July 22nd, 1587, they found nothing except a skeleton that may have been the remains of one of the English garrison. So, whole colony's there, disappears. They realize this, they leave 15 men, go back. When they come back again, 15 men are gone again.
Let me stop you right there. I have a theory about that.
Okay?
The natives left a plastic skeleton in the sand to spook
right.
the people from coming
Boogity,
back.
boogity,
They were like,
boogity.
"This will scare them. They won't want to come back," and it worked. They didn't. They
Except
didn't
they
want
did.
to, but they stayed.
I don't think 15 guys, even if they have muskets,
Yeah.
are have enough military strength to stop an entire tribe from
I doubt that.
from killing them and whatever they did to them in retribution for wiping out their village because of a cup that they didn't take in the first place.
Yeah.
If Vietnam taught us nothing else, it's that we probably shouldn't go to where the indigenous people are and not expect them to like get to us any which way. They're so familiar with the land, they're gonna kill us. There's no way you could take on a whole tribe with even 100 people. They're gonna get you. They know the forest.
So remember, the plan for this new expedition, though, was to go to Chesapeake.
Yeah.
But when they could find no one, the master pilot, Simon Fernandez, refused to let the colonists return to the ships, insisting they establish the colony on Roanoke.
Yeah.
He ordered this because the decision to settle the Chesapeake Bay destination had already been agreed upon prior to their arrival at Roanoke. So they were supposed to be going to Chesapeake, but no, we'll just stick here.
Yeah.
It'll probably
you guys go ahead and set up there.
probably be fine.
Right.
Off to a strong start.
What could go wrong at Roanoke?
Third try.
Nah, nothing. It's fine.
White re-established relations with the Croatans and other local tribes, but those with whom Lane had fought previously refused to meet with him. Shortly thereafter, colonist George Howe was killed by a native while searching alone for crabs in Albemarle Sound. The colonists persuaded Governor White to return to England to explain the colony's desperate situation and ask for help. Left behind were about 115 colonists. The remaining men and women who had made the Atlantic crossing, plus White's newly born granddaughter, Virginia Dare.
That kid made its way into
So
my
there were
script.
some women in this.
There were some women.
It's
There
like
were women
20,
and
30
a
of them.
child to protect,
The first English child born in the Americas, Virginia Dare. White sailed for England in late 1587, although crossing the Atlantic at that time of year was a considerable risk. This, from here out, is just a comedy of errors.
Oh, yeah, it's
That's
horrible.
all this story is like, go think going wrong with it. So crossing late 1587, considerable risk. Plans for a relief fleet were delayed first by the captain's refusal to return during the winter.
Right.
And then the attack on England of the Spanish Armada.
Yeah.
And then the subsequent Anglo-Spanish War. So
it just happened.
Delay,
it snowballed.
delay,
It
delay.
just snowballed where
Every
they couldn't get
able
to these
English
people.
ship joined the fight, leaving White without a means to return to Roanoke at the time. That was 1587.
Right.
In the spring of 1588, White managed to acquire 2 small vessels and sailed for Roanoke. However, his attempt to return was thwarted when the captains of the ships attempted to capture several Spanish ships on the outward bound voyage in order to improve their profits. They themselves were captured and their cargo seized.
Of course.
Yeah.
With nothing left to deliver to the colonists, these ships returned to England.
I just want to fucking get to Virginia. Please, for the love of God.
God.
Could you guys stop attacking merchant ships?
Because of the continuing war with Spain, White was unable to mount a resupply attempt for a full 3 years. He finally gained passage on a privateering expedition organized by John Watts and Walter Raleigh. They agreed to stop off at Roanoke on the way back after raiding the Spanish in the Caribbean. White landed on August 18th, 1590, on his granddaughter's 3rd birthday. But he found the settlement deserted. His men could not find any trace, here's the exact number, sorry. He could not find any trace of the 90 men, 17 women, and 11 children, nor was there any sign of a struggle or battle.
That's the weird thing, wasn't it?
The
That there was
only
no...
clue was the word.
But if you've lost your supplies, you're gonna have to do something or
Well, that's
go
what I'm
somewhere.
wondering.
But what's going to be a
Yeah.
better place to go than this place you've already established something?
Yeah, but there's no food. There's no... You can't do anything.
You can't wait
there.
3 years to be resupplied.
Right. You got to do something.
But there's no bodies, there's...
No,
I'm wondering if
which
they
means
got...
they were either carried off or they left.
I wonder if they assimilated themselves.
Well, we'll
with
get
one of
into
the
theories.
tribes.
We'll get to the
'Cause
theories in a
that's
moment.
they're the only people who know how to survive.
The only clue was the word
Croatan.
Croatoan, actually.
Croatoan.
Croatoan, that's why I keep mispronouncing it.
Yeah.
Carved into a post of the fence around the village. And the letters C-R-O carved into a nearby tree.
Yeah.
All the houses and fortifications had been dismantled. Not destroyed, but dismantled. Which meant that their departure had not been hurried.
No.
Before he had left the colony, White instructed the colonists that if anything happened to them, they should carve a Maltese cross on a tree nearby, indicating that their absence had been forced.
Yeah.
But there was no cross. Indicating, and White took this to mean that they had moved to Croatoan Island, now known as Hatteras Island, but he was unable to conduct a search. A massive storm was forming, and his men refused to go any further, and the next day they left.
Well, they're in the Carolinas, Virginia, around August. That's a
Virginia.
bad time to be
Right.
around
So
that area.
he
Well,
took-
Hatteras
there's
is in
no
North
cross.
Carolina, I thought.
There's no
I
cross,
could be
which means
wrong.
they weren't forced to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Everything had been dismantled, which means they had the time taken. But why would you dismantle it and then leave it?
Right.
They didn't dismantle it and take it with them.
Right.
Yeah,
They
It's,
just
dismantled and
dismantled
left.
it.
it's almost when you see somebody that had to leave the house in a hurry and you
Yeah.
have no idea why.
So maybe they were planning to leave, but then something made them leave urgently, and
Yeah.
they had to leave everything behind.
So, yeah, sorry. Here's a little brief detour to talk about how we know what we know about the colony. And this is a person. Born in 1560, Thomas Harriot entered Raleigh's employment in the early 1580s after graduating from Oxford. He had been among Arthur Barlow's 1584 expedition to the colony. He trained the members of Raleigh's first Roanoke expedition in navigational skills and eventually sailed to Roanoke with the second group of settlers, where his skills as a naturalist became particularly important, along with those of painter and settlement leader John White. So he's on like John White's level of importance. He just didn't leave back.
Yeah.
Between their arrival in Roanoke in April 1585 and the July 1586 departure, Harriet and White both conducted detailed studies of the Roanoke area, with Harriet compiling his samples and notes into several notebooks that did not survive the colony's disappearance. He also wrote descriptions of the surrounding plants and animals, which do survive in his work, A Brief and True Report of the Newfound Land of Virginia, written as a report on the colony's progress to the English government on the request of Raleigh. Viewed by modern historians as propaganda for the colony, this work has become vastly important to Roanoke's history due to his observations on wildlife as well as his depictions of Indian activities at the time of the colony's disappearance.
Very important.
Harriet reports that relations between the Roanoke Indians and the English settlers were mutually calm and prosperous, contradicting other historical evidence that catalogs the bloody struggles between the Roanoke Indians and both of Raleigh's commanders, Grenville and Ralph Lane.
Right. By the way, Hatteras Island is in North Carolina, but it's on that strip, which may at the time been considered Virginia, because it's very
Chesapeake
close.
was where they're heading,
Very
which was-
close to Virginia.
Well, North Carolina and Virginia butt
Yeah,
each other.
they were
They're
right
friends.
there. So this is like you know how in Florida, like where Cocoa Beach and Vero Beach, and
Yeah.
they have that long line of like inlets or whatever. That's what it looks like. Hatteras looks like it's at the very bottom, like south of Nags Head and Virginia Beach and all that. So it very well could have been considered Virginia at that time, I would imagine.
Harriet recounted little to none of these accounts of disagreements between Grenville and Ralph Lane and the bloody struggles with the other Indians, assuming that these facts would prevent Roanoke from getting more settlers. Harriet's text did not reach England or the English press until 1588, by which time the fate of the lost colony was sealed in all but name. 12 years went by before Raleigh decided to find out what happened to his colony.
What?
Why would he wait that long?
Led by Samuel Mace, this 1602 expedition differed from previous voyages in that Raleigh bought his own ship and guaranteed the sailors' wages so they would not be distracted by privateering.
That's smart. They should have done it years before, but how are you going to find out what happened to people?
However, Raleigh's men still hoped to make money from the trip, and the ship landed on the Outer Banks to gather aromatic woods and plants to generate a profit. But by the time they returned there, so this ship that he sent out not to make money,
Yeah.
landed somewhere else, collected some supplies, and before they could turn their attention to the colonists, the weather had turned bad, and they were forced to return without ever making it to Roanoke Island.
Of course, because because at the time you had to hire pirates.
And I wish I'd done some research on this, but I knew
or somebody or a crew that's not really the most morally centered.
I wish I'd done some research into this, but I didn't actually do research on this. By this time, having been arrested for treason, Raleigh was unable to send any further missions. So that was the last mission he got to send, and he was arrested for treason. I don't actually have the details as to why he was arrested for treason. He did something treasonous.
So his settlers, if they had fled to Croatoan, could have been there for years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And no one come to check on them.
They were by car, which didn't exist at the time, of course.
Great.
By car, it looks like it's about 2 hours south of their mark.
But
Actually, more than that, because Chesapeake is more Maryland, north of Virginia. So they were, if they went to Hatteras, they were a ways south.
There was one final expedition in 1603 led by Bartholomew Gilbert with the intention on finding Roanoke colonists. Their intended destination was Chesapeake Bay, but bad weather forced them to land in an unspecified location near there. The landing team, including Gilbert himself, was killed by a group of Native Americans for unknown reasons on July 29th. The remaining crew were forced to return to England empty-handed.
Because he was fucking mouthy. That's why.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Spanish had different reasons for wanting to find the colony. Knowing of Raleigh's plans to use Roanoke as the base for privateering, they were hoping to destroy it. Moreover, they'd been getting mostly inaccurate reports of activities there, and they imagined the colony to be far more successful than it actually was. In 1590, they found the remnants of the colony purely by accident, but assumed it was only an outlying base of the main settlement, which they believed was in the Chesapeake Bay area, which was the
which way it was supposed to be, and there was nothing left, right?
But just as the Anglo-Spanish War prevented White from returning in a timely manner, Spanish authorities in the New World could not muster enough support back home for such a venture either.
Right.
So they couldn't follow up to see if they'd moved anywhere else either.
Yeah.
Once the Jamestown settlement was established in 1607, basically 20 years later, efforts were undertaken by the English to acquire information from the Powhatan tribe about Roanoke. The first definitive information concerning the fate of the lost colony came from Captain John Smith, leader of the Jamestown colony from 1608 to 1609. According to chronicler Samuel Purchas, Smith learned from Chief Powhatan that he had personally conducted the slaughter of the Roanoke colonists just prior to the arrival of the Jamestown settlers because they were living with the Chesapeakeans, a tribe living in the eastern portion of the present-day Southampton region that were related to the Carolina tribe that refused to merge with the Powhatans.
Yeah.
This shocking information was reported to England, and by the spring of 1609, King James and the Royal Council were convinced that Chief Powhatan was responsible for the slaughter of the lost colony.
Wow.
So Powhatan claimed that he had killed the English settlers.
But they had moved long before he got around to
said
slaughtering.
he had said that he had killed them right before these guys settled, which was 1607. So again, almost 20 years later.
Yeah, there's no way it was the same group.
Well, it could have been the same group, but it was 20 years later. Something else had happened to them between.
Right. They still explain why they had left.
Right.
The second source of Chief Powhatan's involvement was William Strachey. We're going to go with Strachey.
Okay.
Secretary of the Jamestown colony.
I like Strachey.
In 1610 to 11. Old Strachey's The History... This is a writing.
Did you just say Old Strachey?
Yeah.
Old Strachey.
Old Strachey's The History of Travel into Virginia, Britannia seemed to confirm Smith's report and provided additional information that the colonists had been living peacefully among a group of natives beyond Powhatan's domain for more than 20 years when they were massacred. Furthermore, Powhatan himself seemed to have directed the slaughter because of prophecies by his priests that he would be overthrown by people from the area, and he reportedly produced several English-made iron implements to back his claim.
That's a legitimate reason.
The information from these two sources, John Smith and William Strachey, provides the basis for the traditional view that the lost colony was slaughtered by Chief Powhatan, and versions of the Powhatan lost colony slaughter scenario have persisted for more than 400 years.
They won't teach you that in history class.
However, no bodies were found, and no archaeological evidence has been found to support the claim.
Well, they ate them.
It's just
That's
stories.
why no bodies were found. They ate them.
They ate them?
Furthermore...
I can't substantiate that.
That's what I thought.
I think the Powhatans were cannibals. I like to think that.
They helped us a lot, by the way. They didn't eat the
could've been
Jamestown
cannibals.
colonists.
But just because I call somebody a cannibal doesn't mean I think they're a bad guy.
Now,
But it doesn't mean they would probably eat
if
people.
you have been cannibalized, can you still come back as a zombie?
No, you've been eaten.
Furthermore...
I mean, maybe your brain kind of...
So we already have a little bit of doubt on this story.
We're going to say no.
We already have a little bit of doubt on the story because there's literally no evidence other than a story.
Because Powhatan, the Chief Powhatan, is known to be a goddamn liar.
Furthermore, recent re-examination
know it.
of the Smith and
Well,
Strachey
I do.
sources advanced by author and researcher Brandon Fulham has suggested that the massacre described by Powhatan was actually of the 15 people left by after that first expedition. So when Raleigh dropped out 15 minutes and said, stay here until we come back for you, we want you to hold on to this colony. The first colony failed. We're going to leave you here so we can go get the second colony. This researcher is suggesting that's the people that Powhatan killed, those 15 that have been left behind, leaving the fate of the second colony potentially still unknown.
So that means Powhatan may not be a liar.
He may have killed some English people,
right.
But it could have been the first colony. It could have been the people left behind to guard the colony. It could have been the second colony.
But if he says he killed them just before Jamestown people came,
Well, the colonies were only a couple of years apart, so it could have been, if they survived for 20 years, they could have survived for 22. There's no evidence to suggest that Powhatan killed anybody because there were no bodies.
I like to think there was a swamp monster there that nobody ever talked about, and then they stayed for like 3 nights, and then the swamp monster come out, and people were like, nope, we're not staying here.
I was disappointed that I could not find more supernatural explanations.
Yeah, they're going to avoid that. In my script, it was the Nunihai, an invisible creature that would do, and that's based on a real
legend,
Native American legend. Yeah, the Nunihai.
I think the mothership came to Earth and abducted them,
and they went and built the pyramids on a different planet,
the moon.
I do have some theories. I'll give you
That's right.
There are many other theories about what happened to the colonists from
made
Roanoke.
one.
Many of these theories involved integration into various indigenous tribes.
Yeah.
There have been several reports from researchers and authors, and I found a lot of deep dives into these reports, but I'm not going to go into any specifics because they're kind of boring. Claiming that evidence that European settlers were found intermingled into a tribe, or that white men were reported as captives by various tribes, but little evidence is substantiated.
Yeah.
So, but there were a lot of different tribes I found where they said they had settlers here. They had these claims of white people that were in this tribes.
I think that would be the most logical.
That's the most logical that they merged
Therefore, we
with
discount
the tribe.
it.
Right. That's what you would think. If you're living there 20 years,
Either you died or you joined the Indians because there's no evidence of you separately existing.
Those make perfect sense, but they still don't explain why the entire settlement was just abandoned. Like, maybe the island wasn't a good place.
Swamp monster. I explained it.
Think of all the supplies you had, and you just left there. Another theory is that the Spanish destroyed the colony.
Lumber was a good. You had to have it.
Yeah.
Well, if they dismantled stuff, they were planning to leave, but then something happened which made them leave sooner.
Like a swamp monster.
Or maybe it was a hurricane. Maybe a storm came
in. It could have
in.
been a hurricane or a storm.
But then if they intermingled, why didn't they go back?
Well, once they're intermingled, you don't need to go back.
That's true. You found what you needed.
You've got a home. You've got a way of surviving.
Earlier in the century, the Spanish did destroy evidence of the French colony of Fort Charles in coastal South Carolina, and then massacred the inhabitants of Fort Caroline, a French colony near present-day Jacksonville, Florida. However, a Spanish attack is unlikely, as the Spanish were still looking for the location of England's failed colony as late as 1600s, 610 years after White discovered the colony was missing. From 1937 to 1941, a series of inscribed stones was discovered that were claimed to have been written by Eleanor Dare, mother of Virginia Dare. They're called the Dare Stones.
Yeah.
They told of the travelings of the colonists and their untimely deaths. Most historians believe they are a fraud, but there are some today who still believe that at least one of the stones might be genuine. The very first stone is sometimes regarded as different from the rest based on a linguistic and chemical analysis and could possibly be genuine.
Yeah.
A detailed map drawn by John White called La Virginia Pars details the land around the colony. It was later discovered that this map had 2 small patches covering a star. It's possible that the star was being hidden and represented a fort where the colonists resettled inland as opposed to on a different island or on a different location.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Many archaeological digs, cartographical analyses, and biological investigations have been undertaken over the last hundreds of years to answer the question, what happened to the lost colony of Roanoke? But no truly satisfactory answers have been found.
I don't think
It's
we can
a
know.
mystery!
I'm still unsatisfied.
Can I give you my 2 favorite theories?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perhaps the reason there weren't any remains discovered or signs of the colonists existing was because they left the island quickly and not by choice. Additionally, the hidden symbol on that map might not represent a fort, but a craft's landing spot.
Jeff figured it out. The aliens came and got him.
This final theory might sound a little far-fetched, but an actual scientific researcher, a zombie researcher, believes an undead infection on the island is a feasible way they could have been wiped out.
Okay, his hypothesis is as valid as the other idiots.
I think they either intermingled with an Indian tribe,
That's what I think.
or they died out from starvation after they intermingled, or they were killed in a war with another Indian tribe.
Yeah, any of those are accurate.
They would have had to have intermingled with an Indian tribe, or else maybe they made a boat and were going to go to another island, and then it sank someplace.
That could have been it. That definitely could have been
Are
it.
you guys familiar with any other historic mass disappearances?
Yes, but not off the top of
Not
my head.
off
I
the
know
top of my
I've
head.
heard of
Have you
some.
heard of the Mary Celeste?
Is that the ship? Mm-hmm. Yes, I've heard of that. It was like the who's
Ghost ship. I mean, there are several accounts of ghost ships.
Who's the guy on SpongeBob that it's like the ghostly? It's a famous legend. The ghostly,
Flying Dutchman?
The Flying Dutchman. Yeah, it's kind of like that, and it's the.
There are a lot of
ships.
talks of ghost ships.
Yeah.
And ships that have been found. But let's talk about the Mary Celeste for a moment.
do that.
Excellent. I love the Mary Celeste. I don't know anything
The
about
keel.
It's better than the Dorothy.
it. It's got to be better than the Dorothy.
It's not as good as the Tiger, though.
No, nothing's better than the Tiger.
The tiger lets you rub
The
its
red
belly.
lion.
Right, it purrs.
The Roebuck.
I want a tiger.
The keel of the future
wanna
Mary
own a
Celeste
tiger.
was laid in late 1860 at the shipyard of Joshua Dewis in the village of Spencer's Island on the shores of Bay of Fundy in Nova Scotia. The Bay
I
of Fundy.
grew up there. That's where I was raised.
That's where you grew up?
in Fundy.
In Fundy?
Yeah, the Bay of Fundy.
The Bay of Fundy.
She
I
was
raised
launched,
there. That's
Mary
why I
Celeste,
like lobster so much.
on May 18th, 1861, given the name Amazon at the time,
Yeah.
and registered at nearby Parsboro on June 10th, 1861. Her registration documents described her as 99.3 feet in length,
Nice, that's a big old ship.
25.5 feet broad, with a depth of 11.7 feet, and it doesn't matter. She was owned, her weight, but
It's a long, skinny ship.
the weight was on there too, but it's
Yeah.
I don't have any point of reference. For
Nah,
that.
it's all right.
Gross tonnage. I don't know gross
It
tonnage.
was 1,000,000 stones heavy.
Yep. She
Wait,
was
that's not
owned
how
by
it's
a
done,
local
is it?
consortium or
What size are these
consortium.
stones?
Well, they're
Would you rather say
big.
consortium or consortium?
Consortium.
Consortium is fun though.
Well, you can do what you want. We're in a free
Consortium.
country because of the Roanoke people.
A Geridisode
Yeah,
says
Geridisode.
consortium.
Consortium.
She was owned
the
by a
people
local-
of Roanoke
and
fought for our freedom.
Scissors.
And scissors.
A local consortium
Gabby.
of 9 people, headed by
Double
Joshua
slippery.
Dewis. Among the co-owners was Robert McClellan, the ship's first captain.
Oh,
Yes.
McClellan.
I've heard of him.
For her maiden voyage in June 1861, Amazon, at the time,
Mm-hmm.
sailed to 5 islands to take on a cargo of timber for passage across the Atlantic to London. After supervising the ship's loading, Captain McClellan fell ill. His condition worsened, and Amazon returned to Spencer's Island, where McClellan died on June 19th. John Nutting Parker
Nutting Parker. Is it Nutting Dice Parker?
No.
It's just one word?
Nutting, Nutting.
He's got
Nutting.
a verb in his name.
Parker,
Nutting
it's a participle even, took over as captain and resumed the voyage on to London, in the course of which the Amazon encountered further misadventures.
As one does. Wacky misadventures?
She collided with fishing equipment in the Narrows off Eastport, Maine, and after leaving London, ran into and sank a brig in the English Channel.
How do you collide with fishing equipment?
Yeah,
It's like a fishing
it's like a
pole?
tackle box in the middle of the ocean.
Just a little bucket that says Nightcrawlers on it.
Watch out for the bait!
Parker remained
out!
in command for 2 years, during which Amazon worked mainly in the West Indies trade. She crossed the Atlantic to France in November 1861, and in Marseille was the subject of a painting, possibly by Honoré de Pellegrin,
I love Marseille.
a well-known maritime artist of the Marseille School. In 1863, Parker was succeeded by William Thompson as the captain, who remained in command until 1867. These were quiet years. Amazon's mate later recalled that we went to the West Indies, England, and the Mediterranean, what we call the foreign train. Not a thing unusual happened. In October 1867, at Cape Breton Island, Amazon was driven ashore in a storm and was so badly damaged that her owners abandoned her as a wreck. On October 15th, she was acquired as a derelict by Alexander McBean of Glace Bay, Nova Scotia.
I'm a derelict. You're a McBean.
McBean, don't you take that back.
Jeff, put your glove back
I
on.
apologize.
I demand
I apologize.
satisfaction.
Within a month, McBean sold the wreck to a local businessman who in November 1868 sold it to Richard W. Haynes,
And that's when it all went wrong.
an American mariner from New York.
You don't trust
Haynes
those
paid
people.
$1,750 for the wreck.
Not $17.50.
Not
I was gonna say, that's it.
then
That's cheap.
spent-
The steel would be worth more than
and
that.
then
Right.
spent $8,825 restoring it. He made himself her captain, and in December 1868 registered her with the Collectors of Customs in New York as an American vessel under a new name, Mary Celeste.
And he smacked it with a wine bottle. He may not have smacked it with a wine bottle, and that's where he went wrong.
In October 1869, the ship was seized by Haynes creditors and sold to a New York
Told you couldn't trust Haynes.
consortium.
He couldn't pay back the $8,000 it took to refurbish it.
Consortium.
Nah, he didn't think it through.
Headed by James H. Winchester. Another name from the podcast.
Winchester.
The same Winchester who was making rifles?
Who
Was that the guy?
knows?
And it was the mob that repoed the Mary Celeste. Not a lot of people know that. It was
During
Sicilians.
the next 3 years,
Sicilian pirates.
the
came
composition of the
what they did.
consortium
Consortium?
changed several
Consortium.
times. The croissant, although
Right.
Winchester retained at least half share throughout.
No.
There is no record of Mary Celeste trading activities during this period.
Good place to hide his guns.
I guarantee
Early
it. See,
in
once the
1872
Gun
mob
dealer.
once the mob saved everything, there are no records. Things get a little sketchy, a little shady. What are you going to do?
Early in
It's my
1872, the ship underwent a major refit, I should say, costing $10,000, which enlarged her considerably. Her length was increased to 103 feet, her breadth to 25.7 feet, and her depth to 16.2 feet.
Why does
They
it need
had
to be
a
any
13
longer?
feet
It's the longest damn
And
boat,
5 feet
and it's
deeper.
skinny.
5 feet deeper.
It's a skinny, long boat.
Among these structural changes, a second deck was added. An inspector's report refers to extensions to the poop deck.
Jared said poop.
Jared said poop again.
New transoms.
There was a pool on the second deck, I believe.
New transoms and the replacement of many timbers.
Yeah.
In October 1872,
I used to date someone named Minnie Timbers.
Captain Benjamin Briggs took command of the Mary Celeste for her first voyage following her extensive New York refit, which was to take her to Genoa in Italy. Where we get the name
Salami. Genoa salami.
jeans
Oh.
come from Genoa. And denim from his name. They're both from Italy.
But the
Anyway,
salami, right?
no.
The salami?
Briggs
Okay.
chose the crew for
I
his
love
voyage
salami.
with care. First mate Albert G. Richardson was married to a niece of Winchester and had sailed under Briggs before. Second mate Andrew Gilling, probably go with Gilling, aged about 25, was Danish in origin, although born in New York. The steward, newly married Edward William Head, was signed
Dick
on.
Head? No, it was Bill Head.
Edward Billy Head was
Yeah, Billy
signed
Head,
on
yeah.
with a personal recommendation from
Billy
Winchester. The 4 general seamen were all Germans
Are you shitting me
from the
with this?
Frisian Islands. The brothers Volkert and Bas Lorenzen, Arian Martins, and Gottlieb Gudschad.
Arian Martin.
These are J.K. Rowling characters. This is not reality.
A later testimonial described them all as peaceable and first-class sailors.
Oh, yeah.
In a letter to his mother shortly before the voyage, Briggs declared himself eminently satisfied with the ship and crew. Sarah Briggs informed her mother, this is his wife,
Yeah.
that the crew appeared to be quietly capable if they continue as they've begun. On October 20th, 1872, Briggs arrived at Pier 50 on the East River, New York City, to supervise the loading of the ship's cargo for Genoa. 1,701 barrels of poisonous denatured alcohol. That's the cargo.
Okay, that's a problem.
A week later, Briggs was joined by his wife and baby daughter. On Sunday, November 3rd, Briggs wrote to his mother telling her that he intended to leave on Tuesday, adding that, "Our vessel is in beautiful trim, and I hope we shall have a fine passage."
As long as you don't drink the 1,000
Yeah, don't
barrels
drink
of poison
the,
alcohol.
don't drink the booze.
On Tuesday morning, November
He
5th,
drank the booze.
Mary Celeste left Pier 50 and moved into New York Harbor. The weather was uncertain, and Briggs decided to wait for better conditions.
Well, good idea.
He anchored the ship just off Staten Island, where Sarah used the delay to send a final letter to her mother-in-law.
Wait a minute, why did you say final letter?
She wrote,
What?
"Tell Arthur I make great dependence on the letters I shall get from him, and will try to remember anything that happens on the voyage, which he would be pleased to hear." On November 7th, when the weather eased, Mary Celeste left the harbor and went out into the Atlantic.
For a 3-hour tour.
A
3-hour
tour. While Mary Celeste prepared to sail, another ship, the Canadian De Gracia, lay in nearby Hoboken, New Jersey,
Yeah.
awaiting a cargo of petroleum destined for Genoa via Gibraltar. Her captain, David Morehouse, and his first mate, Oliver DeVoe, were Nova Scotians, both highly experienced and respected seamen. As captains with common interest, it is likely that Morehouse and Briggs, the captain of the Celeste, knew each other, if only casually. Although some accounts assert that they were close friends who, on the evening before Mary Celeste's departure, dined together. But the evidence for this is limited to a recollection by Morehouse's widow, 50 years after the event.
No,
So
she didn't know. She was...
We can't exactly trust
Yeah.
that they were close friends, but they probably at least knew each other.
Yeah.
The
were
Gracia, the boat, departed for Gibraltar on November 15th, 8 days after Mary Celeste, following the same general route. The Gracia had reached a position midway between the Azores and the coast of Portugal at about 1 p.m. on Wednesday, December 4th, 1872. As Captain Morehouse came on deck, the helmsman reported a vessel about 6 miles distant, heading unsteadily towards the ship. This new ship's movement, the erratic movements, and the odd set of her sails led Morehouse to suspect that something was wrong. As the vessels drew close, he could see nobody on deck, and he received no reply to his signals. So he sent DeVoe and second mate John Wright in a ship's boat to investigate. From the name on her stern, the pair established that this was the Mary Celeste. They climbed aboard, where they found the ship deserted. The sails, partly set, were in poor condition, some missing altogether, and much of the rigging was damaged with ropes hanging loosely over the sides. The main hatch cover was secure, but the fore and lazarette hatches were open, their covers beside them on the deck. The ship's single lifeboat that had apparently been stowed across the main hatch was missing, while the binnacle, never heard that word before,
The binnacle.
housing
It
the
helps
ship's compass,
yeah.
had shifted from its place. Its glass cover was broken. There was about 3.5 feet of water in the hold, a significant but not alarming amount for a ship that size. A makeshift sounding rod, which is used for measuring the amount of water in a ship, was found abandoned on the deck. The last entry on the ship's daily log, found in the mate's cabin, was dated at 8 a.m. on November 25th, 9 days earlier. It recorded Mary Celeste's position then as off Santa Maria Island in the Azores, nearly 400 nautical miles from the point where De Gratia encountered her. DeVoe saw that the cabin interiors were wet and untidy from water that had entered through doorways and skylights, but were otherwise in reasonable order. In Briggs' cabin, the captain, DeVoe found personal items scattered about, including a sheathed sword under the bed, but most of the ship's papers were missing. Also, the captain's navigational instruments. Galley equipment was neatly stowed away. There was no food prepared or under preparation, but there were ample provisions in the stores. There were no signs of obvious fire or violence. The evidence indicated an orderly departure from the ship by means of the missing lifeboat.
So why did they leave?
On December 23rd,
Why would
an
they abandon it
examination
like
was
that?
ordered of Mary Celeste, which was carried out by John Austin, surveyor of shipping, with the assistance of a diver, Ricardo Portunato. Austin noted cuts on each side of the bow, caused by, he thought, sharp instrument, and found possible traces of blood on the captain's sword. His report emphasized that the ship did not appear to have been struck by heavy weather, citing a vial of sewing machine oil found upright in its place. So it seemed like the ship hadn't rocked too much, or this
Right.
would have broken. Portunato's report on the hull concluded the ship had not been involved in a collision or run aground. A further inspection by a group of Royal Naval captains endorsed Austin's opinion that the cuts on the bow had been caused deliberately. They also discovered stains on one of the ship's rail that might have been blood, together with a deep mark possibly caused by an axe.
Oh,
These findings strengthened Flood's suspicions that human wrongdoing rather than natural disaster lay behind the mystery.
Sounds
Right.
like pirates.
yeah, that's exactly what it sounds
On
like.
January 22nd, 1873, he sent the reports to the Board of Trade in London, adding his own conclusion that the crew had got at the alcohol, even though it's not drinkable because
Right.
it's poisonous, and murdered the Briggs family, the captain, his wife, and his infant
Right.
child, and the ship's officers in a drunken frenzy. They had cut the bows to simulate a collision, that then fled in the yawl, or the boat,
Yeah.
to suffer an unknown fate. The man presiding over the hearings into what had happened to the ship did not believe this. He could not accept that the Mary Celeste had traveled so far while unmanned. Later investigations did not support those initial findings. They did not believe any of the stains were blood, nor that the tears on the bow were man-made, believing them to be just natural wear and tear. A recent theory put forth by the Smithsonian Channel's The True Story of the Mary Celeste in 2007
Yeah.
put forth that the abandonment of the ship was due to possible pump congestion and instrumental malfunction. The Mary Celeste had been used for transporting coal, which is known for its dust, before it was loaded with the industrial alcohol. As the pump was found disassembled on deck, the crew may have been attempting to repair it of congestion. Since the hull was packed full, the captain would have had no way of judging how much water the ship had taken on board. It was also believed the chronometer was faulty, meaning that Briggs could have ordered abandonment thinking they were close to the Santa Maria,
Right.
kind of like we saw with Amelia Earhart,
Yeah.
when in fact they were some 120 miles further west. Mary Celeste was not the first reported case of a ship being found strangely deserted on the high seas, but it is I mean, it is a mystery. There is no conclusive evidence as
Yeah.
to why those people left or what happened to them.
That's probably the
Well,
most
they
famous,
obviously
though,
left,
I think,
though.
isn't it?
But think about this.
The boat's
Yeah.
missing,
the boat-
so they left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But why?
Or,
And-
or those who are left, and the others were tossed overboard.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. They could have been chucked over the side, and then the
But why would you?
instrument
but if
stolen.
but if the alcohol
I
was,
don't know. I'm thinking
you're-
pirates.
why wouldn't you
Pirates
keep the
was
boat?
right thing.
if they're
Well,
killing
that's a
people,
good
why wouldn't
question.
they keep the boat?
well, if
Too
they
much
passed
coal
an
dust.
island that where pirates don't want the boat,
Yeah.
they can't hide the boat.
Right.
But they could hide the goods. I don't know.
The Smithsonian's report, it seems like the most likely that there's a malfunction. They thought the ship was going to sink.
Yeah.
So they abandoned it before it got too far.
That
but they
kinda
left
makes
behind a
sense.
lot of provisions that would have been useful.
Right.
So
Yeah.
who knows?
But with all that people, well, I don't know.
But when you get in a hurry, sometimes you panic and you have to just
Right.
start leaving
You
stuff
gotta do
behind
it.
that you don't think.
The sword, though, would that's
it was sheathed.
that's not something you would really leave behind. I wouldn't think, and
Depends
it's
on
not
how big the
too
boat is.
heavy
you have,
to.
yeah. So again, this is not the first reported case of ship being found strangely deserted. Robert Gould, a naval officer and investigator of maritime mysteries, lists several such occurrences between 1840 and 1855. Whatever the truth of these stories, it is the Mary Celeste that is remembered. The ship's name has become fixed in people's minds as synonymous with inexplicable desertion.
Were
Yeah.
these other ships in the same areas as the Mary Celeste?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay, so it's not a pattern of ships in a certain
No,
area.
like in the same geography, like the Bermuda Triangle, which I think they've explained.
Well, a lot of that's weather. A lot of that's pirates too, because
Yeah. Well, apparently there's some sort of gravitational pull or something. There's a scientific reason to explain
There's a
it.
portal to another.
There's a
There you go.
vortex. It's
Yeah.
a vortex, is what it
portal
is.
to a different
Yeah.
world.
In October 1955, MV Joyita, a 70-ton motor vessel, disappeared in the South Pacific while traveling between Samoa and Tokalu, with 25 people on board, so twice as many as were on the Mary Celeste.
Yeah.
The vessel was found a month later, deserted and drifting north of Vanua, Levu country,
Yeah.
600 miles from its route. None of those aboard were seen again, and a commission of inquiry failed to establish an explanation.
I would totally buy piracy at that point.
In 1955?
Yeah, in
Oh,
the
yeah.
Pacific? Oh,
still
you're
pirates.
goddamn right. Yeah, they're not
There's
the
Somali
charming
pirates,
pirates
yeah.
we think of. They're the
No,
actual
they'll
kill
dangerous
you
pirates.
all.
I forgot
That's
about
like the Steve Zissou, the Wes Anderson movie with Bill Murray.
Life Aquatic.
The Life Aquatic. They run into modern pirates,
modern
and they're not
pirates-
funny or cute.
No,
They're
and they don't just rob you, they
horrifying.
kill you.
No, they totally kill you. All they want is your stuff.
Yeah.
And they
So
will
why
get
didn't
it. They will
take the
kill
boat
you and
then?
take
Why
the stuff.
wouldn't you take the boat?
Because you have no way of getting rid of the boat.
That could have
You
been it.
can't dismantle it and take the parts and sell them for something?
Not without being noticed in some
Perhaps.
port with this
Yeah.
boat.
David Wright, the affair's principal historian,
yeah.
has described this
I don't
case
make
as
up
a
the
classic
stories.
marine mystery of Mary Celeste proportions. I have one final little incident that I wanted to mention.
Okay.
It's called the Anjakuni Lake Incident.
Where's the
I'm
Anjakuni
not
Lake?
familiar with
In
that at all.
1930, a newsman in The Pas, Manitoba, Canada, reported on a small Inuit village right off of Lake Angikuni. The village had always welcomed the fur trappers who passed through occasionally, but in 1930, Joe LaBelle, a fur trapper, well known in the village, found that all the villagers were gone. He found unfinished shirts that still had needles in them, and food hanging over fire pits, and
Leaving in
therefore
a hurry.
concluded that the villagers had left suddenly.
Yeah.
Even more disturbing, he found 7 sled dogs dead from starvation and a grave that had been dug up. LaBelle knew that an animal could not have been responsible because the stones circling the grave were undisturbed. He reported this to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, who conducted a search for the missing people. None were ever found. Now, there's the story. Such is the story as it appears in Frank Edwards' 1959 book, Stranger Than Science. Other versions appear in Whitley Strieber's science fiction novel, Majestic,
Whitley
and
Strieber.
Dean
I've read
Koontz's
that.
horror novel, Phantoms, which I've read.
The city disappears or whatever, yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
The world's greatest UFO mysteries presented this as fact. Has an even more detailed version, as do other websites and books, adding other standard details such as mysterious lights in the sky, empty graveyards, and somehow over 1,000 people missing.
Jesus Christ.
A reprint of the story is
Yeah,
found
him too.
in the.
Yeah, he
he's
was
not
gone.
there.
He wasn't there. In the
Was he a zombie?
Technically,
Now, I didn't want to be the one to mention that. There
didn't
are
speak.
folks who have said that Jesus was the first zombie, but that's not true.
No, he
at
wasn't
all.
shambling.
No, he
According
wasn't
to the
shambling
text.
or anything. He
A
just
reprint-
rose from the dead like
A reprint
like
of the story
Frankenstein.
is found in the November 27th, 1930 Danville Bee, written by journalist Emmett E. Kelleher. That article states that Joe LaBelle found an empty Eskimo camp with 6 tents and that 25 men, women, and children had vanished. After the article was reported in Canadian newspapers, the mounted police received inquiries. In January 1931, Sergeant J. Nelson, stationed in the Pas, filed an internal report that was released to the public. Nelson wrote that he could find no foundation for this story. Nelson reported that Joe LaBelle, the informant, had taken out his first trapping license that season and questioned whether he had been in the territories previously, as stated in the Kelleher article. Nelson continued, stating that one of the photos used in the story, dating one of the photos used in the story to 1909, and stating that Kelleher was known for his colorful stories. Yeah. The incident appears to have been forgotten
Damn liar.
until referenced by Edwards' 1959 book. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police has dismissed the case as an urban legend, claiming that the story originated in the book. It is also believed, according to them, this is a quote, that such a large village would have never been possible in such a remote area. They report there is no record of any unusual activity in the area. Brian Dunning debunked the claims in an episode of Skeptoid, although he updated his findings to report that he uncovered the existence of the November 1930 article, believing there were no such references and the story originated with the book. So he could not find the article. He was trying to uncover the existence of the article, could not find it. He says it started in the 1959 book. While he still cites Kelleher's story as dubious, he also states that the published article does indeed exist. So those are several reports of mass disappearances that have never been conclusively solved.
It's creepy.
You think it was the Greys? Maybe it was the...
It was probably
Nordic?
the people from the Dyatlov Pass.
I think it was the swamp monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Infrasound there caused them all to go crazy and they ran away.
Yeah, I'd buy that too.
Maybe
Or radiation.
I like these disappearances that have
old
no...
Krusty Bones.
Old Krusty Bones took them.
Yep.
I can attest to that. Old Krusty
And
Bones
I'll be honest
took 'em.
with you, I was looking on Wikipedia at
Yeah.
mass disappearances, and those were 3 out of probably 200.
Yeah, there's a ton of
Not all of
them.
them are mass disappearances. They're not
Right.
100. Sometimes it's just a couple people. And obviously they could just be that a ship sank or they fell off or died
Right.
or something crazy. But there are a lot of unexplained disappearances.
The ghost ships always
We've
get
done
me.
a number. I mean, Mary Heart
Yeah.
was a great 2-parter about
Yeah,
that.
no, yeah,
The
all right,
Dyatlov Pass.
Dyatlov
And,
Pass.
yeah, Mary Celeste is the, I don't want to say original ghost ship, but
Right. It was
kind of thought of as one of the...
it was the most
definitely the most
famous
iconic.
one, I think,
definitely the
yeah.
most iconic ghost ship.
Yeah. How interesting.
There's all kinds of things out there.
There was another
Yeah.
one I wanted to do, but didn't think we'd have enough time. We probably could have fit it in, but I didn't think we'd have quite enough time.
I always feel like
I
with
might
every
make
one
its
of
own
these-
episode someday.
I feel like with every one of these
About a
stories,
group of
there's
children.
There's something. That's Village of the Damned. It was a thing.
not.
The aliens and
They're
all the women
blonde.
had children. They're all blonde. They control you with their minds. I always feel like with these stories, as much forensic work has been done as can be done.
Absolutely.
But there's always something that you don't know, you can't know.
Yep.
Some human intervention that you didn't even know was a possibility. And I think most likely that's what's happening with these things. It's something that we couldn't even, it's so, we'd find it ridiculous. We'd go, what? What? And I bet that's what's happening.
Well, for like Roanoke, all you have to do is ask yourself, okay, what would I do in this situation? I've been left here. I've been waiting for supplies.
Maybe
They're
it's been a
never
couple
coming.
years, yeah.
We're
There's
running
no
out of
food.
food. There's no food.
And I will say, one other thing I want to
Right.
interject that I forgot to write in my report was there have been climatographical analysis of the area and said it was one of the worst droughts in the count's history.
So,
Yeah.
so what are
Along
you
that
going to do?
coast.
Yeah.
To survive, it's not working here. You got to go
Right.
someplace else. Who else is around here that
And is
might
adapted
be,
to living
has
in
adapted,
Or
their rivals.
or their rivals?
Right.
So it only makes sense that they left and joined one of the Indian tribes. Either they were wiped out by an Indian tribe or they joined an Indian tribe.
I think the assimilation is the best
Seems like the best
theory
theory
there. Because
There's still no evidence to
neither
substantiate
one of
them,
them,
but-
neither of these tribes were actually war. They weren't attacking the white people just willy-nilly.
Well, there was no evidence
Neither
of
one of them.
attack.
They were fairly peaceful
There would have been
tribes.
some sort of
Right.
records, unless they worked really hard to hide it, you'd think.
Right.
But the Indians or the Native Americans would not have disassembled their houses and
Right.
and,
that is weird.
who often they were planning to leave because something wasn't working, but then something happened that's made them say, well, we got to go now.
Yeah.
We can't wait until we finish or figure out how to take this stuff with us.
Right.
We were planning to leave. We're going to take all this stuff with us, but we have to go now.
Yeah, I think that probably happened. They deconstructed everything and went, well, fuck. What are we gonna? We
don't have
can't
time.
trudge these through the woods. Yeah, we don't have time to mess with it. Let's just go.
We'd love to hear your thoughts, Deckheads, on
Yeah.
what you think the
What are these-
answers
what are
are to
these
the mysteries.
mysteries?
If there's any other mysteries you'd like us to solve, I did have a person recently give me some suggestions that she would like to hear in the podcast. So I'm going to try to put those together into a report.
Excellent.
Cool.
So I love hearing people's potentials. I know that there was one recommended by Kelsey Floyd a long time ago. I'm going to
Yep.
try to do as well.
Oh,
Tie that one. I'm
cool,
going to try
cool.
like a couple quick hits into one probably for
Yeah.
the next one. So
Very cool.
we always love hearing back from you guys. Love to hear your thoughts on any of these
Yeah.
things. And until next time, stay wild.
Stay wild. Bite the edge.